In the sun-bleached haze of late 70s Los Angeles, a small crew of adult film regulars got together on Ventura Boulevard, slapped together a fake auto shop sign, and started shooting one of the most enjoyable X-rated comedies of the golden era. The title was Garage Girls, and on paper, it was just another sex-fueled farce from a director with a slew of films to his name. But on screen, it became something else, a blue-collar fantasy about women who take control of their work, their tools, and very literally their own pleasure. Shot in the glow of the golden age, Garage Girls has the DNA of a screwball comedy spliced with the optimism of a workplace sitcom. Four friends open an all-female auto body shop, fix cars, outsmart rivals, and a gang of criminals, and somehow turn the whole operation into a fun-filled farce with plenty of great genre content. At the time, nobody was calling it subversive. It was marketed like any other porn comedy crossbreed of the time. A little bit of skin, a lot of innuendo, and a tagline promising service with a smile, and everything else. But decades later, this low-budget film still leaks a kind of accidental charm. Funny, filthy, and quietly progressive in ways it probably didn't even mean to be. Released theatrically in 1980 and floating onto home video not long after, the setup is pure sitcom. Four women, Belinda, Samantha, Barbara, and Sarah, ditch their previous jobs and open their own all-female auto shop. Cue the slapstick, the sexual liberation, and mechanical issue call-outs turning into something else. Lisa DeLeeuw, Brooke West, Cris Cassidy, and Dorothy LeMay make up the cheeky ensemble. DeLeeuw's Belinda is the de facto leader part, Rosie the Riveter part Foxy Brown. Garage Girls doesn't so much have a plot as a rhythm, a series of set pieces stitched together by the pursuit of a man in a gorilla costume and the girl's insatiable libido. One of its more fondly appreciated scenes, the youth camp breakdown, features Georgina Spelvin as a pious teacher stranded with a bunch of youngsters. Belinda comes to the rescue, tools in hand. What follows is, well, an enjoyable scenario that sticks in the memory. The director, Robert McCallum, aka Gary Graver, had by the 1980s already been moonlighting as an adult film director for almost a decade. Graver's mainstream credits included camera work on Orson Welles' The Other Side of the Wind, exploitation thrillers, and even a few Roger Corman gigs. In interviews, he admitted he started making adult films simply because it was the only way to keep shooting. His industry sets, though, were surprisingly cinematic, not the handheld chaos most people associate with adult filmmaking. Grips laid down dolly tracks between scenes, lights were gelled, and he even incorporated car chases. And like many a good auteur, he couldn't resist a small cameo too. Scenes would be shot from multiple angles to create rhythm and continuity. There was a sense of mise en scène, an understanding that bodies, props, and setting could tell a story together. Even when the script was paper-thin, the composition wasn't. Michael Stringer, credited as Mike Stryker, handled the cinematography, which was unusual for Graver, as he normally liked to take on that role himself. Stringer was another Orson Welles regular and had a prolific career that included working on Christopher Nolan's breakthrough film Memento in 2000. The soundtrack is pure late 70s comedic, Benny Hill-style silliness by Richard Hieronymus, a veteran composer for the industry, credited under his oft-used pseudonym Ronny Romanovitch. Recorded in Los Angeles, it's full of high-energy camp, complete with over-the-top brass, cheeky funk bass, and playful melody lines that refuse to take anything seriously. Production was based around Ventura Boulevard in Woodland Hills, specifically the corner of Alhama Drive, not far from a Holiday Inn. The location was pure Southern California, low-slung garages, billboards, and busy roads, the smell of motor oil baking on hot asphalt. Cal Vista wasn't a big studio, but it had a reliable distribution circuit, theaters like the Pussycat chain, and regional grindhouses that were happy to book 35mm adult comedies. However, as I have mentioned many times, when it comes to films released in the early 80s, by the time Garage Girls hit screens, adult cinema was starting to retreat from theaters onto videotape. Graver's film is yet another one of those last gasps of a transitional moment, shot on film with care, a narrative that aimed for more in terms of comedic value, and just self-aware enough to know the absurdity of its own existence. Another facet that makes Garage Girls interesting is the tone. Unlike the darker, more transgressive adult films of the era, Graver's movie is unabashedly fun. It's about women who love their jobs and their independence. Between the gags, the film plays like a gender-flipped Smokey and the Bandit episode. John Leslie, as the well-meaning Officer Aloysius Duke, spends half the runtime flirting with Belinda and the other half trying to keep up. Cameos from Lisa Loring, Holly Page, Mike Horner, and Eric Stein during the bus breakdown sequence, as well as the likes of David Morris, John Martin, and Herschel Savage at the pool hall, round out a cast of adult film regulars who were, at that point, working constantly, moving between features like a traveling theater troupe with a lot better perks. The fun being had on set was truly palpable. Essentially, it is a movie that delivers. It's cheeky, it's sexy, it's soft-hearted, and it's unmistakably Californian, not just in its geography, but in its attitude. The film hums with that laid-back West Coast optimism that realized a garage, some genre content, some crime fighting, and a few dirty jokes could carry an entire movie. And they were right. It's the idealized spirit of 1980 LA distilled into celluloid, pretty girls, cars, and even a casual feminism that showed up unannounced, wearing loose denim overalls. Decades later, Garage Girls stands as proof that the golden age wasn't just about sex, it was about creativity under the constraints of time and budget. From a director who saw beauty in the adult film aesthetic and knew how to bring it to the screen. As the end credits roll over a Californian sunset, you can almost imagine Graver behind the camera, squinting at the light, thinking, Orson would have liked this shot. For the rest of us, that attention to the filmic, combined with performances that exude the fun being had by all, makes for essential viewing 45 years later. Not many films, mainstream or otherwise, can hope to say that